Next up, we have Vox Media's Jim Bankoff with Eric Eldon.
Thanks, everyone. So Jim actually, before he did Vox Media, built a lot of the pieces of AOL that TechCrunch is part of today. He also advised the Huffington Post. He's been in the media for a long time. He's seen a lot of different things on the web. And I'm just going to start off trying to get at, why did you go to SB Nation and Vox? Why, what's different about what's happening there, what you've been working on versus everything else you've done, right? Because in a lot of ways, it feels like it's, not that different from what a lot of other media companies are trying to do. You're trying to get page views, you're trying to get top quality advertisers, you're trying to figure out a way to balance journalism with being able to, and doing a good job there while still having a business.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me today. And for context, Vox is a multi-vertical publisher. We have in tech, we have a brand called The Verge. In sports, we have a brand called SB Nation, and there are 300 sites under SB Nation, each focused on a different team or sports topic. And then we recently launched a gaming site called Polygon, and each one of those are the fastest growing in their vertical, and we're proud of that. And to answer your question, I learned a lot of lessons about what you shouldn't do if you want to scale a digital pure play media company. I made a lot of mistakes. We had some successes too, and was inspired by a lot of great work that came behind me. And so I thought to myself, well, how do we apply those lessons to create a premium media company at scale where we can be proud of the work, we can grow, we can make a nice return for our investors, and we can help to really prove out that you could create a big business that was producing high quality work on the web and high quality advertising as well. And for us, that formula is a combination of technology, talent, and culture. We're very much of a product-driven media company, a technology-driven media company. We created our own platform that we call Chorus, which you've written about, which enables us to get our work done. And then from there, we hire great people, but it's really what's different about us is how that all comes together and how our company isn't siloed in such a way that has frustrated the efforts of companies that have tried to do it before us.
So, I mean, the basic plan for your business model is to try to become one of the top ad networks in the country, up against Google, Yahoo, other traditional media companies, AOL, Facebook, Twitter. You have to get really big to do that, right? I mean, you have to get, to get like a large portion of national advertiser budgets, and you're fighting against TV and other traditional media as well. How is that going?
So it's going really well, and I'll kind of give some guideposts on that. But all the companies you named, great companies, all going after different parts of the market. Google, Facebook, multi-billion-dollar disruptors. The part of the market that we're going after is different, though. We're going after what I call premium digital, and maybe it's a new category, but you're starting to see it emerge, not just with us, but with other publishers. And what does it mean? Well, it means that you can buck a lot of the trends that have been happening in web content, the race to the bottom in terms of content farms and page view machines and really crappy stuff that people get tired of reading. Not only are people tired of reading or engaging in those products, but advertisers are tired of being near them. And so there's been this trend where there's been a race to the bottom in terms of content quality. There's been a race to in gimmicks, to drive one more page view or get you to click on one more thing that you don't want to. And the same thing has happened in advertising, where you see deceptive advertising, you see bad use of data, you see ugly advertising at a minimum that might be juxtaposed against great content. We think that there's a big market to be had if you can crack the code on high premium, high quality product experience, high premium, high quality advertising as well. And just to give some numbers against that, worldwide, if you look at the worldwide advertising spend for last year, it was about $250 billion industry, of which about 65% of that went to brand building. And I'm not talking brand building versus direct marketing, direct response. If you look at the internet, last year was about a $25 billion advertising market, where 80% of it went to direct response as opposed to brand building. And so those brand dollars, as consumer attention shifts from web media, from traditional forms of media, has to grow, and we want to be there to capture it. And I'm pleased to say that the growth numbers, to answer your question, are great. We will be a profitable company this year based on being a pure play, high quality digital media company, and we expect to be very profitable as we look forward into the future.
So I mean, what's profitable? Which publications and why are they making money?
To break it down, the ones that have been around for a little bit, SB Nation and The Verge are profitable. This is still an investment year for Polygon, but we expect that to be profitable next year. We have a model where we can get our brands to profitability quickly. And again, it's via combination of technology, talent, and culture. But specifically in terms of the business model, doing some new and innovative things in advertising, as we say, trying to make the advertising as compelling and engaging as the products that they're near. When we look at magazine advertising, and obviously the magazine industry is being rocked, but one of the things that worked so well for it is that you like the ads as much as you like the content in many cases, and that's not the case on the web. I mean, can anyone really kind of raise their hand and say they get excited about the ads that they see on their favorite websites? And it's a disservice to the industry. It's really, it's hurting us all. It's hurting us as consumers. It's hurting marketers who are looking to have effective marketing. And it's certainly hurting publishing as an investment. Our investors look at us as a disruptor. They don't look at us as like, oh, can you be an interesting media company? They look at us and say, can you disrupt media the way that other companies in our portfolio are disrupting healthcare or education or other industries?
So, I mean, how are you going to so you're profitable, which I don't think like a lot of people in the industry were expecting, at least this soon. But what's the next stage? I mean, how are you going to tell advertisers like, hey, move your TV budget over here?
Well, I mentioned to you that I'd have some news to share today, so this is probably a good time to do it. To answer your question, we see brand marketers looking at sites like The Verge or SB Nation or Polygon and saying, hey, we have a message that we want to give to our audience as well. We want to communicate to an audience the same way The Verge does or SB Nation does. And you at Vox seem to know how to do that really well. You've built some of the biggest websites in the shortest amount of time, and they've had critical appeal, they've had consumer appeal, and they've had business model appeal. Well, I'm a brand marketer, I'm looking to communicate as well. How do I leverage your capabilities to do that? And we, as a result of hearing that over and over again, decided today to announce a new division of our company called Vox Creative. And Vox Creative will be run by Chad Mumm as our creative director, and Joe Brzezicki, who is our advertising vice president, and Trey Brundrett, who runs our technology. And really the idea is to leverage the exact same capabilities, whether that's award-winning design, network quality video production, all these storytelling capabilities, and of course our Chorus technology platform, to do that on behalf of brands that are looking to connect with audiences. And we think it's a no-brainer as all these big budgets come online to try to unlock digital engagement, that the same capabilities that enable us to communicate with our audience can enable brands to communicate with their audiences.
How are you going to keep the church-state separation in terms of like what your writers are covering, right? Because it's going to be a lot of the same advertisers as who they're writing about, right? They
already are, and it's an issue that we take tremendously seriously. We don't believe in sponsored posts the way that I've been reading about elsewhere, and we have a very strong wall. And specifically, we look at the context. So I often liken it to a television network, and on a television network, say NBC, you don't see Tom Brokaw and Brian Williams reading out an advertisement. But if you flip on that same NBC network for a Monday night sports program, you might see Al Michaels reading off the subway play of the game or something like that. So you have to be very sensitive to the context. In our case, that means a site like The Verge that does a lot of technology reviews and other important news, you'll never see The Verge talent working on an advertising. There's a very big, solid church and state wall. And even in sports there is as well, so we don't believe in that. Having said that, our behind the scenes capabilities, again, video production, design, technology, distribution services, social media campaigns, all the things that brand marketers are looking for, those are the capabilities that can be leveraged without conflict. And those are the ones that you'll see Vox Creative doing a lot of in the future.
Okay, what's an example of something Vox Creative might do?
Well, we've already worked with some of the biggest brands across different categories, whether it's consumer packaged goods like Speed Stick, like by Menon, where we've introduced some big new bold advertising units for them, or a car company like Ford, where they partnered with us around CES, or the U.S. Marines, where we've created special editorial content for them in our sports unit. And they're
But the editorial content for them was.
It was advertising, but it was advertising that people would actually want to view and share.
But it's different from sponsored content in the sense that.
It's different from sponsored content in the sense that it's not our talent that is kind of trading off of their goodwill in order to endorse a product. It is creating a compelling story for advertisers and audiences to actually want to see. And again, it goes back to my point. Advertising is supporting our site. Advertising is supporting a big part of the web economy. And so it behooves us all to find advertising that is beautiful and is impactful and is engaging and is well produced as the content that surrounds it. That's the case, generally speaking, in television. That's the case, generally speaking, with magazine ads.
Yeah,
it needs to be the case, generally speaking, with and it kills me when I go to like some of my favorite sites. Let's just pick on, say, the Washington Post. I live in DC, award-winning journalism, and you see a crappy little banner ad next to it that is advertising some acai berry formula, and you think to yourself, what's wrong here? It's not doing the content a service. It's not doing their business model a service. It's not supporting the great journalists that work there. And it's also not even doing the advertising industry a service because no true brand advertiser that's looking to communicate a message in a high quality way is going to subject themselves to that format.
I mean, so people who are thinking, just looking at, people in the audience, I know there are people who are trying to do their own media startups. What are the opportunities for them around this in any way? I mean, is it you just have to focus on a vertical? You have to, can you break into the advertising market if you're a smaller guy, or do you have to raise venture funding like what you've done and grown it over a period of, a decade at this point?
Well, I'd say my advice would be understand your motives. What are you in it for? I do think you can have a single person blog that can be profitable if you find the right audience. I think you can have a small group of people, and that could be an interesting, good lifestyle business, perhaps. Like any other venture that's out here, it's tough. It's only a small percentage of people will break through, but it can be done. For us, we're trying to achieve scale. We are proud that last month's ComScore rankings, we were the fastest growing publisher. We, according to our Google Analytics, hit about 60 million users per month. And I think if you're going for those numbers, you are going to have to get some heft behind you. And it can be done. I'm not the first publisher that you've interviewed or that has been on the stage today, and I won't be the last. And so we have a lot of great peers. We like our approach. But my advice would be that there definitely is going to be opportunity for new media companies at scale. The media industry is being disrupted just like every other industry. And while it's a hard road, like any other venture, it's a road, it's a big, achievable, addressable market.
So, I mean, how does the guts of your operation work then? You have the product team, you have your various editorial operations, and you have your advertising team. How are they working together in a way that's like allowing each of them to do their jobs? But I mean, you know, the issue for most media companies is that there's big disconnects all over the place in terms of like, you know, media technology, for example, right?
Yeah, I mean,
how have you gotten your CMS together?
One of the advantages of having been in places where things didn't work quite well is you kind of understand.
Where were those?
Many places I've been around, but one of the things I learned is that it's a fallacy to believe that you can create a great end user product by having developers and designers over there and editors over there, and even an advertising department over there. If ultimately you want to, what you put forward is a product, and it happens to be an editorial product, but it's a product in the same way that a phone is a product, and in the same way that a 3D printer is a product. Mm-hmm. And that product has to work in harmony to the end user, and work in harmony for your business model. And that requires people to break down walls and integrate and start talking to one another. And in the case of our product platform, Chorus, there are very tight feedback loops that are built into our culture. And so our talent, our editorial talent, our production talent, our audiences are constantly providing feedback into this living, breathing thing that our developers and designers are building and creating. And conversely, when our developers and designers build something, they're doing it with the full knowledge and understanding of the problems that our advertisers and our editorial talent and our audiences are trying to solve. That feedback loop is just very tightly coupled.
What's an example of something that you've done recently that's
one of our bigger product successes, which is now about a year old, is our live blogging tool called Syllabus, which, that was a very serious problem. We were having trouble finding a commercial solution that was scaling for us, and we were covering big events, like an Apple keynote or something like that. And that's a great example. Our editor-in-chief, Josh Topolsky on the Verge side, worked hand in glove with our product team, Trey Brundrett, Pablo Mercado, to brainstorm this thing together. And Josh and team told our product people, here are the problems we're trying to solve. They didn't tell them how to solve the problems. They're smart, some of the smartest minds in the industry who can figure out how to solve the problems and then iterate and constantly improve the product. Just like any other web product that we talk about, ours is a living, breathing, iterative thing. So we operate by those web principles, and we keep trying to make things better.
So what's coming up next? An autos blog or?
Well, this year we're focusing.
Startup blog or?
This year we're focusing on our 3 verticals, and that's been that's paid off for us in terms of growth. And the other thing that's coming this year is a focus on unleashing that same power to make beautiful advertising. All these things that I'm bragging about on stage that have led to such tremendous success and growth for our publishing businesses are going to lead to the same success and growth to make brand marketers successful. So we're focusing a lot on innovating there, and we're putting a lot more investment into that in terms of answering your question. I think what you're getting at is, are we going to get into new verticals? And yes, I think we will get into new verticals, but we're not going to do that immediately. We don't launch things just for the sake of launching them. So we're really considered, and we want to make sure that when we do it to win.
Cool. Well, let's give Jim a big round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thanks.